Welcome back, everyone. Spring and summer is a time for new growth and taking bold action together. So we hope these stories will inspire you to live boldly, take wise chances, and with our friends and family make a difference together. Today we're going to be reading The American Story, 100 True Tales from American History by Jennifer Armstrong and illustrated by Roger Roth. So lean in with the spirit of adventure, grab a friend, and let's enjoy the story together. 1981, Pacman Fever. Once upon a time, game arcades were noisy with the bells and clanks and mechanical thumps of pinball machines, and light bulbs blinked on and off like twinkling stars. But not long after the world got used to the idea of computers, programmers began to ask, how can we play games with them? At first, video games were slow and bland like the electronic ping pong game called Pong, or else they were alien space invader shootouts designed by the science fiction fans who wrote the programs. And then came Pac-Man. Created in Japan and imported to America, Pac-Man burst into the arcade world like a bomb. It was easy to play, simple to understand, and fast, and a set of bells and bulbs. It pierced the darkness of the arcade with electronic beeps and blinks. The little yellow Pac-Man was designed to look like a pizza with one slice missing. All it had to do was gobble its way through a maze of dots and runs away from its enemies. Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde, Little kids could play it, big kids and adults could play it. All anyone needed was a quarter. The number of quarters that gamers popped into the Pac-Man machines in its first year alone could have sunk a ship. Almost in the blink of an eye, there were 100,000 Pac-Mans in arcades. America had Pacman Fever. Headlines in newspapers from coast to coast trumpeted Pac-Man Mania. Pac-Man craze hits America. Nobody had ever seen anything like it. Overnight, the arcade world was transformed from a pinball heaven to an electronic coliseum. There were Pac-Man spin-offs like Miss Pac-Man, Super Pac-Man, and Pac-Man Plus. There was a Pac-Man cartoon and a Pac-Man song climbing the pop charts. There was Pac-Man cereal boxes, air fresheners, and costumes. There were Pac-Man flip phones and hot rods and record books. Pac-Man lookalikes and play-alikes multiplied with dizzy speed. The home version of Pac-Man created a wild demand for game platforms to play on television, and now kids with remote control joysticks were glued to their TVs, gobbling power pellets and battling the evil Pinky, Blinky, Inky, and Clyde. It was as if a flood of electronic games was now bearing down on America, sweeping all other kinds of games off the face of the earth. Even 20 years earlier, Pac-Man remains the best-selling coin-operated game in history. Nothing else even comes close. But in spite of the simplicity of the game, it took almost 20 years and more than 10 billion games played around the world before Pac-Man was finally won. In 1999, a 33-year-old gamer named Billy Mitchell played 6 hours at an arcade in New Hampshire on one quarter, achieving the highest possible score of 3,333,360 points, weird number, using only one Pac-Man. It felt like I'd been playing forever, Mitchell said afterwards. I started talking to myself, coaching myself on. I was afraid I was going to get lost inside myself. That's Pacman Fever for you.